Madam Chair, could I find out which groups, which friends of the library are represented here?
So we're going to ask you to introduce your friends groups at the beginning of the meeting, and Jake is going to kick it off. So make sure there's someone who tells Jake who you are.
Kick you off.
Just so you're aware.
Good job, Jim.
It's a California rain schooner.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. I put it on specially today for some reason or other.
Just grapes.
There you go.
Just in case.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the October meeting of the Sonoma County Library Commission. Thank you all very much for being here. We are going to move into announcements, and one of the first announcements is we would like to honor two people in the library world who died in the last month. Brett Lear, who was our library director here for several years, he died unexpectedly in Colorado. And so I've sent a note to his wife and son, but it was a shock, I think, to all. And then, of course, to Diane Feinstein, the flag up there is at half-mast, and she was truly a remarkable supporter of libraries.
Call roll.
I'm sorry?
Call the roll.
Roll call? Well, first I had to call for order.
Yes.
What meeting? Sure. As I've been reminded, why don't I call the roll? Commissioner Cahill.
Here.
Commissioner Elkin.
Here.
Commissioner Engbar.
Here.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Here.
Commissioner Green. Here. Commissioner Hauser.
Here.
Commissioner Henderson.
Here.
Commissioner Lagos. Here. Commissioner McKenzie. Here. Commissioner McMillan.
Here.
Excellent, we're all here. So Diane Feinstein was a terrific supporter of libraries. I was in Washington several times, and it was wonderful. One of the wonderful things she did was she had a breakfast for California citizens, and it was a big ballroom, and she would be delighted if kids would come. And so she would ask the kids if they knew about the Constitution. And she didn't want the librarians, there was a table of us. She certainly didn't want us telling her what the Constitution said. She wanted the kids to tell her what the Constitution said. She was also an incredible supporter. She made personal contributions to libraries throughout her career, and we should honor her. All right, the next announcement, my dog is going to give us a demo of the audio setup. Sometimes we, the commission, are not sure of how it's set up.
Good evening. All right, so
as you know, we've been struggling with this, and I thank you for your time, so I can give you a little bit of a demo and prep for using the microphones.
And I didn't even have mine on. How about that? So I was the first example.
So these are boundary microphones. They're meant to sit directly in front of where you're speaking, about 18 inches. And when you speak into them, or speak, you want to still have them in line with where you are speaking, so you can look around, but keep in mind that your voice needs to go to the microphone. They do have a mute button on them, of course, as we've talked about before. But we do also need to project, just like any other microphone, that in a large room like this with a lot of people, we need to project our voices. If you talk very quietly, it's not going to pick up. And actually, this one is picking up pretty well right now. But remember to give yourself some uplift from the start to assist with the microphone as well. Also, on the microphones on the left-hand side, they all have a headphone jack. So why don't you take a moment, except for Eric, I apologize. Grab your headphones. They're brand new, so you don't have to worry about that. Give a little untwist.
You don't have, oh, yeah.
Yes, they're right behind your nameplates and everyone. And go ahead and plug the headphones in if you would, please. They're designed to have, lift right up, some back channel headphone. Andy, you're not getting volume to your...
I was not until I really pushed it in. There's no, I don't see any volume.
There is not, and so one thing I would recommend, it is quite loud because they're really there just in case. So, and you also, if you speak, you will hear your own voice, so you have that echo. But if you ever get to a point where you can't hear what's being said, you know you have your headphones that you can plug in. And really, that's all that there is to these microphones. So, like for our laptop users, don't put your microphones behind your laptop because it won't pick it up. Remember, when you're speaking, to try to speak towards the mic, even if it means the microphone, not me, even if it means you're not directly looking at the person you're speaking to, because you want to make sure that you're being heard properly. And also for people like me standing up here presenting to you, it's important to remember that it's about 6 to 8 inches and just below your chin. So we have a lot of different heights in the room. So we want to make sure that whomever is up here, if you have to raise the mic, you raise the mic, and lower the mic, still do. But then 6 to 8 inches just below your chin. Please, yes?
When you speak, do we push and hold the button?
No, it has 2 different settings. It's either red for muted and no audio pickup, and then green to speak.
Okay.
One thing with these mics is they're also very high sensitive, and so as you're going through your papers, and if you're like me and you twiddle your pen, it will pick that up loud and clear on the microphones, especially for those that are using earbuds. We will hear that quite loudly. Other questions, please? Yes?
Do we take the headphones home or leave them here?
Please, these are yours to keep. And to that, these are just standard 3.5 earbuds. If you have a favorite set of earbuds you would rather use, please do.
Anybody else? Fabulous. We'll try to get through the meeting. All right, now Barbara Mays is going to talk to us about the Find Your Path map.
Okay, not here to check, but I hope this is right. Hello, Barbara Mays, one of the Public Services Division managers. It's nice to see you all here tonight. In front of all of you, you will have a map. And for the commissioners especially, each one of you should have all of the stickers that coordinate with the branches that you represent. I believe Commissioner Legos has the most. So our maps look like this. Sonoma County Library is excited to showcase our services and encourage people to visit library buildings and use mobile library services through a new illustrated map and sticker activity. Every library and mobile library in Sonoma County will have this map available for patrons to take home starting this month. The map features all Sonoma County Library locations, along with cities and communities serviced by the Bibliobus, plus our 2 northwest Sonoma County locations serviced by the Mendocino Bookmobile. People can pick up a unique book-shaped sticker from all 15 library locations, so you all have 1 or more of those stickers here. You can go to the desk on your break and get the Rohnert Park sticker, the Rohnert Park Cotati sticker if you'd like, because you've been to that library. People can collect stickers on their map, and staff and you all alike can encourage them to place the sticker representing their branch next to the drawing of the branch. Or they can stack the books on top of each other to show all the books the places that you've been. We have experienced some really fun families coming onto the Bibliobus so far who are very excited to put the bus on the location that they are serviced within the county. So beyond the physical buildings you see here, you can put a bus anywhere, a Bibliobus anywhere on the map to show that that's where you get your service.
Any questions? Any questions?
No, but it's fun.
I would like to do a special shout out for Catherine Greco, who's one of our graphic designers. And Ray Hawley and his team worked fearlessly and so hard on this project. They deserve all the applause. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, our next item is public appearances. And first, I'm going to ask Lisa if we have any public comments online.
No, there are no public attendees.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will hear from the Friends after the resolution. So are there other public comments from anybody in the audience? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to action items by resolution, the Friends of the Library Week resolution. We are so delighted. Commissioner McKenzie, would you like to read the resolution?
This is a resolution honoring the Friends of the Sonoma County Library during National Friends of the Library Week, October 15th to the 21st, 2023. Whereas the Sonoma County Library has 10 distinct Friends of the Library groups that represent communities and partner with library branches across Sonoma County. These 10 groups are the Friends of the Cloverdale Library, Friends of the Healdsburg Library, Friends of the Petaluma Library, Rohnert Park Cotati Friends of the Library, Friends of the Santa Rosa Libraries, Friends of the Sebastopol Library, Friends of the Sonoma Valley Library, Sonoma County Wine Library Association, River Friends of the Library, and Friends of the Windsor Library. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis that our library is a community hub, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and to discover, learn, and share with others. And whereas the Friends understand the vital importance of well-funded libraries and to work to ensure that our libraries have the resources needed to provide a wide variety of services to all people. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our communities. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Sonoma County Library Commission that the members of the Sonoma County Library Commission thereby express their heartfelt appreciation for all members of our Friends of the library groups and recognize their hard work and their valuable contributions to the Sonoma County Library.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Cahill. And before we vote on it, I would love to invite the Friends to come up and say a word. So, Mr. McKenzie, would you like to begin at the mic? There we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, commissioners. As the president of the Rohnert Park Cotati Friends of the Library, we really appreciate the hospitality that you have shown to us, and particularly appreciate the resolution that you have just passed. And I know there are other Friends groups here, and I'm not in a position to identify them, but I would like the Roanoke Park Katati members to stand up and be recognized. So don't be shy, stand up if you're with us. We just completed this past weekend, our fall book sale, successful, and thanks to the efforts of people right here in this room, it got cleared away, and here you are meeting at the commission. And we're, just as a former council member here in Roanoke Park and someone who was involved in the planning and construction of this library, it's great to have you using the Armando Flores room for its current purpose. So thanks very much. And let's see, who others are here from other jurisdictions who would like to say something?
Good evening. I'm Damian Olson, current Vice President of the River Friends. We are the Guerneville National Library. I have several of our hardest working volunteers with me. Angela Orr, our President Emeritus. Still going strong. Ursula and Christmas are some of the backbone of our heavy lifters and and you know, as a lifelong lover of libraries, it's wonderful to be able to give back to our community in this way and encourage literacy and cultural programs in our backyard.
Thanks very much. Anybody else want to say a few words for their friends? Completely understandable if you don't, but we would love to hear from you. We want you to know that we really celebrate your work. You've gotten the library through some very difficult times and are participating as well. Great.
Hi, I'm Arlene Abel, Secretary of the Petaluma Friends of the Library. We are so excited that there will be a refresh. Our building was built in 1976. It has the same carpeting that it had in 1976. So we are so excited that in a few months, construction will begin and we'll have a repainted library with new carpets, new furniture, skylights, and all sorts of wonderful things. There are four of us in Petaluma here. We have Marcia, who's going to stand. She runs our bookstore. It's an amazing bookstore. We have Bernice, whose love is children's books. You can always see her. And Stan, our new friend from Santa Rosa, who's bringing us amazing ideas on how they do things in Santa Rosa, and we're already starting to use those ideas. So thank you.
Partnerships, we like it. Anybody else? No pressure.
I'll just mention that the Friends of the Sebastopol Library are here. Our secretary, Wendy Bayless. We're here. Sue couldn't make it, our president, but thank you guys for inviting us.
And just in case the audio didn't pick that up, the Friends of Sebastopol are here, and I see a friend from Windsor.
Mike Amy from Windsor, treasurer of the Windsor Library, and we appreciate the support from the commission.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have to leave, but I am giving a welcome from Julie Petroncelli St. John from the Sonoma County Wine Library. She's very good to be here.
Seeing no one else, we're going to give the commission the pleasure of voting on this. But if there are comments from the commission, we'd like to hear those. Do you have any comments about your friends? About the work of the Friends?
I would just like to say that none of our Cloverdale friends are here tonight because it's a long way, but they're a wonderful, engaged group, and they have provided programs in the library and even in our elementary school with the money that they've raised for us. So we really appreciate them.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Just one extra thing about the fabulous Roanoke Park Utility Friends of the Library, and as they run the only bookstore in the city of Roanoke Park, a city of 45,000 people, so they provide a critical service and do it very well, and everything else that they do, running the book sales and stuff, it's a terrific group, very committed, and proud to know them and have been associated with them for quite a while also. Anyway, thank you all, friends.
And thank you very much for your advocacy. It's not just about the book sales, it's about making sure that your communities know what the library is doing. We really appreciate that, especially after with how much the libraries have changed after Measure-Wise. So we appreciate your continuing to make sure that everybody in your towns knows about that, because who knows, there may be a renewal in the future. All right, with that, we're going to ask the commissioners to vote on the resolution. Commissioner Cahill?
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Engbar?
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan? And I will make it unanimous. Thank you all so much. And you are all, of course, invited to stay for the amazingly interesting meeting that we're going to have, but you need not. You can let yourselves out and enjoy the rest of the beautiful evening. The fall is here, so there's not that much time. Thanks all very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right then, we are going to move down to 5 to presentations. We're going to get the staff presentation on the Bibliobus mobile outreach van. Very exciting.
Hard to follow that.
It is. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners, Chair Doyle. My name is Kathy DeWeese. I'm the Youth Services Administrator for the library and also have the pleasure of serving as the admin point person for the Bibliobus project. We are here today, I'm here with my colleague, Monica Samantha Hernandez. We are here today to share information about the library's mobile outreach service delivered through the Bibliobus. We will share the history of how we acquired the mobile van, how our service model was introduced in the first year of service, and then how that service model has adapted and changed to meet the needs of the community in the reimagining plan. Okay, next slide. Oh, you've got slides. Cool. So the slide up there, this is what we do. For, the Bibliobus itself. Many of you have visited the Bibliobus out in the community, so you've seen us in action. And this slide shares a snapshot of what a normal visit entails. The Bibliobus prioritizes outreach to underserved communities, and it provides service countywide to people of all ages and abilities, regardless of physical, economic, social, geographic, or other barriers. Our outreach staff and librarians curate a variety of diverse library materials for the communities we visit, and our staff provides fun and engaging programs. In terms of like the curating materials, when we go to the Pride Festival, we empty the bus and we fill it back up again with Pride-related materials, and then we switch it back out, just to kind of focus it to that specific event. Again, capturing activity of what is a typical visit. We can make library cards for people. We have English and Spanish books for people of all ages. Our slides are not changing.
We have perhaps lost internet connectivity.
Goodness.
So.
We could just talk then without slides. So what can you do with the Bibliobus? You can get a library card, you can access free Wi-Fi, browse English and Spanish books for all ages, and then also the most important thing is you're building relationships. We're connecting with library staff to ask questions and get books. We also sometimes bring other services such as laptop computers and entertainment devices, specialized library programming such as bilingual story times, STEAM activities,
one-on-one tech help, and also skill building workshops or voter registration drives. Some of the metrics we capture include the number of people we interact with, as well as circulation, and then new library card users, i.e. library card signups. We're still not on the right side, so just don't even, I'll tell you, oh, we're almost there. So how did we get to where we are today? What we're gonna do in this presentation, we're brief, oh, there we are, that's our slide, yes. We're briefly gonna revisit just a journey from the inception of the idea of the Bibliobus, the procurement, then once we got it, the initial year of service, you're developing that service model, and then our current expanded service level. So we're gonna kind of take you through that journey. So next slide, cross fingers. Okay, the history. Back in 2018, staff brought 2 different proposals to you guys, to the commission, with 2 different options for using surplus funds in ways to support the then strategic plan goals of extending library service outside of library walls. For those of you who were on the commission at the time, those 2 options were a mobile outreach van and kiosk checkout, like at locations, like fixed locations in the community. The commission voted and selected the mobile library van option, and then Public Services Division Manager Lana Ablawan took the lead on selecting vendors, specking out the van, RFPs, all that stuff. The contract was awarded to a company in North Carolina called Matthews Specialty Vehicles, and it was originally supposed to be an 18-month process. Well, then the pandemic happened, and all kinds of stuff happened. The initial anticipated date to receive the van was November of 2020. We ended up not getting it in hand at the library until August of 2021. But that gave us a little bit more time to prepare for the arrival, design the service model, figure out what we were going to offer and how. In January 2021, we hired the wonderful, the amazing Monica Samantha Hernandez, and she played a crucial role in the preparation for the Bibliobus arrival and then in coordinating the rollout of the first year of service, and she's going to take the next section.
Next slide. Sorry, just adjust this. We're a little bit of different heights. Good evening, commissioners. Like she said, I'm Monica Samantha Hernandez, and I was brought on board to start. We had to come up with a way to. Pardon me. Let's start over. We had a brand new service on our hands. So what I was responsible for creating was the webpage, social media, graphics, and we ordered supplies and materials besides the book collection. There's a lot that goes into a mobile service besides just the books. So one of the most important things that we set in my time laying the foundation was standards and checklists for safe operational use and driver training. The Bibliobus arrived in Roanoke Park HQ in August of 2021, and we then started a tour of the library branches to familiarize staff, and even got to meet some of you commissioners at these tours. So that was very exciting. And so we wanted to familiarize the staff with this new outreach tool, something that would be available in their community. I would like to say originally we had no staff 100% dedicated to developing and executing this outreach, mobile outreach vision, but we did have 4 staff trained as drivers and how to use the equipment. With existing staffing, we rolled out a point of need service model, where one of the 4 trained drivers would collaborate with nearby branch staff to go to these outreach sites. Our purpose in doing that was to build community connections. We wanted to have patrons have a familiar face when they were going to these sites, and working with community partners in the area. And we were really trying to make the library across all the county. And now we have these maps so you can actually see where we go. Our next slide, please. Not working, that's all right. Our first year of service, from October 2021 to September of 2022, we served 36 community events, 11 school visits, 26 low-income and senior-focused housing, we divided our visits, our point of need service models in these three different categories. And we saw just shy of 9,500 visitors. Again, these stats were accomplished with just 4 staff who also had other full-time duties taking on the mobile outreach service. We were limited in this first year to primarily 2 Bibliobus visits per week. So in December of 2022, next slide, please. Yes. We finally were able to hire a full-time outreach librarian, Brianna Herod. Again, she was not able to be here today, but we really want to celebrate her work in how she expanded this service model. From our point of need service model to our hybrid service model, which included community stops and special events. Let's see, and it really, this is the full vision of what we wanted the mobile outreach services to be, to develop those regularly scheduled community stops in communities where the library service was limited based off lacks of proximity to library buildings or other transportation and access issues of the populations there. So again, those 2 types of services are community stops. Those have a consistent schedule, whether monthly or bi-monthly. They're part of a regular route that lasts either a half hour up to 2 hours. They're usually regular in occurrence, scheduled 3 to 6 months out. So the patrons there know we are always going to come back. Activities that happen at those stops include checking out books, reference questions, reader advisory, free Wi-Fi. And then, of course, those special events that we were doing earlier. These are one-time events or signature events that we always want the Bibliobus to participate in. These often happen less frequently and they're higher attendance, so we have more staff to cover these increased activities, and we pull staff from not just the nearby branch, but all of our branches, which is really exciting to get to work with other staff members. And then, those slides. But our second year of service, we saw an increase we saw 14,000 patrons that year. I also want to share some stats on our book checkouts. In the first year of service, we had 366 books checked out per month. And in our second year of service, we had 550 books checked out per month, which is quite exciting. Also in our second year, we increased our stops per week from 2 days a week to about 5 or 6 days a week, possible with our full-time staff and the original 4 drivers taking on shifts as needed.
All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of time and just expound a little bit on what those community stops are. Monica Samantha is handing out a schedule, the schedule of the regularly scheduled community stops that is valid through December of this year. As we move forward with this new service model, we have the regularly scheduled community stops, more like a bookmobile style, and then we have the special events that are like requested by the public. To be honest, right now we're almost getting more requests for visits than we can handle, and we're juggling, we're balancing, but it might be that a new mobile outreach van is in the future. Also, as we move forward, we are developing a rubric for evaluating the community stops. When is this stop not working anymore, or do they need more time because it's working so well? So we're going to evaluate how long the stops are, how long we keep them in the rotation, or if there's another place with a higher need that might need to be cycled in. Again, as Monica Samantha mentioned, we're specifically targeting locations that are very far from physical libraries. Thanks to some of the work from Barbara with connections provided for us, we have new stops in Bodega Bay and in Cazadero, and we're working on other coastal locations as well. We also are going to start in the new tracking cycle. We're going to start tracking our visits to tribal communities. There's the map above, but there's no map above. The map on the thing, you can see that that is a copy of the map that's on our website, on the Bibliobus page on the website. And if you can see, if you have it in front of you, the blue little buses are the community stops. The green little buses are the special events. And so that it does update dynamically. And so if a new event gets added, the map will get added with the new stops. And also up in the very top corner, which you can see, yeah, are the little yellow bus stops for the Mendocino Mobile Outreach, which is the mobile. Next stop, next slide, sorry. Getting it all mixed up. And then continuing with the special events, when we were doing pretty much just the point of need service model, we were just doing special events, and now we are continuing to do special events, and as Monica Samantha said, those are often the big numbers, and sometimes we've been reporting this in the commission meetings, and you guys are like, really? Did you really see 500 people? And those are the numbers of people that we actually interacted with at one of those big events. The special events were the main part of the first year service model, and we continue to meet those community requests to bring library services to events across the county. Let's see, just this weekend, where were we this weekend? We were at the Windsor Parade, but that wasn't the Bibliobus. We were at the Day and Night Festival with Community Action Partnerships last weekend. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and as I mentioned before, the relationship that we continue to develop with our tribal connections in the communities have allowed us to visit many, many different tribal events across the county, and we have been prioritizing those because that is a demographic that we have been struggling to reach. And that, with the hiccups with the actual presentation, that was the content we were going to share with you today. We would love to take some questions, and we would also love to invite you to come visit the Bibliobus.
Lisa, are there any members of the public who have joined us? No. Okay, so no public comment. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Osborne.
When we approved the initial bus, there was a possibility of getting more of a city bus size vehicle. And one of the negatives on that was you have to have special bus driving permit for that. If we expand this, would you consider going to a large one, or would you just want to do another small van-sized one?
I would say that's still under consideration. This van that we have is a Class C license, so really any driver's license can drive it. As Monica Samantha said, we did develop training. Our fleet manager who manages delivery has experience training commercial drivers, and so he actually designed a training for us. But for future, we definitely think that there is a high need for the bookmobile style of service, i.e. more books in more locations and more regular stops. And so if we did if and when we get a new vehicle, I, for one, will advocate that we add much more room for books. So that might entail looking into those options.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, thank you.
Are you on?
Oh, thank you both and everyone involved in the Bibliobus. I think it's one of our most wonderful additions that we have, and I'm glad that you're really stepping things up. It's great, the regular schedule. I had a few questions. One is, where do we keep the Bibliobus overnight, and how is the different people that drive it from different places, how does that happen, that handoff?
We keep the Bibliobus in Rohnert Park HQ. We have a special parking spot for it, and we keep the keys in a lockbox. So staff who are trained to drive the vehicle know how to access it, and we've trained to change out one driver from one day to the next. We have 2 sets of keys.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed this big increase in low income and senior visits and connections, which I think is fantastic. Do you have a breakdown between the different categories, senior versus low income? Not versus, but
I don't
separate.
have that for you right now, but I can get that information and report back to you.
Yeah, I'd be interested in those numbers. And then I'm wondering about requesting the Bibliobus. Like if people ask us, well, how come, can we go to an event? How does that happen? How could we?
That was part of creating the website. We created a request form where we ask a variety of different information about their events. It goes through to the website and through 3 different schedulers, Brianna and myself, and we check to see whether the bus is already scheduled that day. We now have an outreach van, so in case the Bibliobus is not available, we can sometimes send the mobile outreach van to that stop instead, or a parade, like we just did the Windsor Parade with Mobile Outreach Van.
So that other van is in use now, the one that we got through with the grant with the lunch thing? Oh, great. That's wonderful. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the mobile outreach van is not a service like this, it's more just a tool for in-house staff. And so yes, we are using it to transport outreach materials. We had it driving and transporting stuff for lunch all summer, and as Monica and Samantha mentioned, it drove in the Windsor Parade this weekend.
Great, thank you. And last but not least, I was just wondering, I think you probably referenced this, Kathy, but the outstanding issues or problems that you're facing, obviously you see a need for more books, but.
I will also say we are having technical difficulties. We have had, some difficulties with the vehicle itself over the 2 years we've been driving it. We've had issues with the solar panels, we've had issues with the awning, we've had issues with the lift, and so we are working with facilities to make sure that we have regularly scheduled maintenance, and we're hoping to get a new awning someday.
Okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately, this vehicle itself was pretty high tech, and a lot of them were aftermarket modifications in North Carolina, and so we are doing the best we can to maintain it at the level that it needs to be maintained, but we are still able to provide a service. We're just bringing out a pop-up tent now when we do events right now.
Coping. Great. Thank you.
Green.
I appreciate what you do and that you visit a senior housing community in Cloverdale. Are those residents able to reserve books and have them brought to them on their regular scheduled day? How does that work?
We are not yet able to offer that service. We've been discussing it. That would entail creating new locations for hold. And so that is something that we've been in talks with IT on. We're not yet able to offer that service. We are now, when we first rolled out the service, we were not able to take returns on the bus, and we are now taking returns for those locations, and we're working on how we can do holds as well.
That would be great for some of the folks who live there. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for doing this, and I love the Bibliobus, and I was really fortunate accidentally to run into a Bibliobus at Bayer Farms this weekend, and it was great, and the kids were in there, and it was wonderful to see it in action. Like Commissioner Green, I want to thank you for including seniors and senior stops, and I just wanted to say that seniors, even if they're not way out somewhere, often can't leave the premises of where they are. And so all over town, they need them. And I have a question. So would you have any plans, or is it possible in the future, to have a Bibliobus go to the county jail? Because people incarcerated are often left behind and need stuff like this more than anybody, and it can really, really make a difference in people's lives. Is that possible?
So we currently do offer some services at the county jail through a contract through our literacy department. And so there is like some library support through that. And the position that we are recruiting soon for the
Juvenile hall.
Thank you.
I know about the juvenile hall. I meant the.
What we're doing with that position, we are, the other half, so if you recall from a couple months ago when we passed that, it's a half-time position for the juvenile hall. And then what are we doing with the other half has been discussed a few times, and I think the new plan for that is to actually have that person work on jail and reentry services. So there is definitely room for a more coordinated approach. I will say that we will have to walk carefully in terms of delivering materials to the jail. I know that they have very strict limitations about what they could accept or what they could, they may say no, thank you.
And I know in the federal prison system, they have mobile book services, mobile libraries in some places, and they can just bring paperbacks, for instance.
Yes, and that
But
would be a requirement. Yeah, I think that this new position that we're about to recruit for can definitely create a more coordinated approach to all of the services that we offer with the incarcerated.
Commissioner Lagos.
Can you talk a little bit about how you curate the books that you put
put in there each week? You mentioned you put some in for Pride and then you take them out, and I'm just really curious about what thought process goes into that.
So when we first built the collection, it was our collection services department and her staff. They actually selected the materials that would be the core collection of the bus. When we have a special event that asks for or requires a shift in the materials that are available on the bus, we would pull it from the branches and be like, hey, do you guys have any books on Dia de los Muertos? We need to fill up the bus, or at least have a better selection on the bus. In addition to that, we have been doing a lot of school visits, and like, I think, was it last week, there were no middle school books, and we were having a middle school visit, and so we had to go to a library branch and pull some books to fill out the collection so that we could really support that visit.
Yeah. Yes, that was just this week, and so this past Tuesday, we had senior visits in the morning and middle school in the afternoon. So we have 2 carts that can roll off via the accessible lift. 2 carts were filled with large type, audiobook, and DVDs, books on CDs for the seniors, and then we stopped back at Rohnert Park HQ. The Education Initiatives librarian, she jumped on the bus, but we swapped out the 2 carts. She put on middle school materials, and I took off the large type.
Other questions?
I just want to have one closing comment, is that I'm so sorry that none of you get to meet Brianna today. I mean, if you've seen her in the field, you've met her, but I'm just really sad that she's not able to be here to present to you, because she is a gem and a treasure, and we wish she were here.
Give her our thanks. Absolutely. I've got a couple questions. So have there been any surprises since you've started the program? Good surprises, bad surprises, whichever, but because we know you, and so if there's a bad surprise, then you fix it, but what was the biggest surprise so far?
One good surprise, I would say, has been how welcoming the tribal communities have been at welcoming us and inviting us to things, and so they might not be events that are open to the public, but we'll still go. Like, we'll be there, we'll prioritize that, because that's the community that we've been trying to reach. They ask us to everything, it's wonderful.
For myself, let's see. When we first got the bus, we first rolled out the bus, we had a lot of people in the community coming up and telling us their stories about their video bus or their mobile outreach experience. What is it called? Bookmobile. Yes, I'm like, oh gosh, I've been saying video bus for so long, I forgot Bookmobile. Their Bookmobile experience, not just the free Bookmobile in Sonoma County, but from when they were young, the previous Sonoma County library Bookmobiles, and we did a little social media campaign advertising those, and we even got a person who said that her husband used to drive, and it was really, really nice to see people. They're just so excited to see the library out and about and wherever we are. So that's always a good thing.
That's great. There's so many people who have, indeed, their lives have been changed by access to Bookmobile. So it's wonderful that you're taking it out to the rural places and other not rural places that people can't get to the libraries. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna add one more thing, is that seeing what it's like to actually be able to take stuff with us to an event. Like before, it's like you would just load up the back of your car and whatever staff members you could cobble together, you would go and maybe like have one cart or this or that. Like to actually be able to bring stuff to an event has really made a big difference. Like the giant inflatable auto that Ray got for us, like, we can't fit that in a car. Like that has to go in a van, nothing like this, or the mobile outreach van. So I mean, it's kind of been a game changer for us in envisioning what outreach should be.
Another benefit of Measure Y. And another question, do you give library cards?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Any other questions? We're delighted. Thank you so much for making the report. All right. Speaking of reports, we're going to be moving into the library reports section.
Yes. So I do have some updates as part of my report. The first thing, I know that early this year we talked about doing the annual report in the fall, and I have since discovered why we don't do it in the fall. It's because the state library stats are not due until November, and some of our statistics are actually provided by the state library. So our stats are due early November, and so I will be doing our annual report in probably February, like I did last year. But the good thing is that we will be able to do some comparative analysis to other library systems that are similar in size. So we'll be able to show, how we are doing compared to those other libraries. So that's an update on the annual report. I have another update on the Roseland Library. We do have some budget numbers from the project management company, Kitchell, who was hired by the city of Santa Rosa. They have projected the new Roseland Library to be $33.3 million. Currently, we are $5.6 million short. We're still waiting to hear back from the state library about the grant. They said the end of September. They just said recently 2 to 3 weeks. So, any day now we could find out whether or not the project has been funded. We also have other grants in from our other libraries. So, we hope to hear about those soon. So that is my update on Roseland. If there's any questions on the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioner McKenzie.
That's an astonishing increase in the cost of the Roseland Library, is it not? The last I heard, it was like 13 million or 16 million?
No, I mean, we had always projected 24.5, and that is the actual construction cost. That's what they're projecting is 24.5. But the other amount includes site costs and other, like they got to build a road. We have to pay for a portion of that. They have to put in electrical, they have to put in plumbing, and all of that stuff, we have to pay a portion of that. The city, they put in 10 million, there's another 8 million in, I forget, ARPA funds, I believe. So they're actually contributing 18 million to this project.
My other question was about the physical versus digital numbers. And in the report, it says the digital circulation continues to exceed that of physical circulation. But at the bottom, or I don't know, my little chicken scratches, when I add this up, it still looks like our physical is about 65% and the digital is about 35%. Am I?
Well, that's a mistake. So our physical is very close. As you can see from the bottom of page 16, it's very close, but digital, so let me make sure I understand your question. You're saying that our digital is outpacing our physical, and that is true. Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I'm saying actually the opposite. Based on the numbers, the physical is like 230,000 and the digital is 100,000, and it's something like 2 to 1 physical, unless I'm doing this completely incorrectly. It may be a rate of
Mm-hmm. So.
What page are you referring to?
The bottom of page 16 and the top of page 17.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see. Okay. You're talking about the August 2023 stats.
Yeah. Of the 357,000 circulation, 127,000 is digital, which is obviously not the most. Most of them are still physical checkouts, unless I'm doing that wrong.
No, I mean, this is what I was provided, so I assume it's correct. So my report is not.
It's just an interesting question because I constantly have these inquiries from the public about ebooks versus, physical
Yeah,
stuff.
I'll have to look at these to make
yeah.
sure that they're correct, because it doesn't quite seem right to me either.
Perhaps you can update us next month.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica.
Other questions? Commissioner Elkin.
This is a small follow-up to Barbara's question, and it's just made more difficult by the fact that it's split between the 2 pages. But when you do go back and talk to staff, for physical checkouts, we have information on both first-time and renewals. And for digital, it only says total, I don't know if does that include renewals? Does it exclude renewals?
I'm going to turn that over to Jamie.
'Cause I know that I renew sometimes when I'm checking things out digitally.
You
Yeah, I listen to audiobooks, and I've been able to, some of them are long, and I've been able to check it out again.
Well, good evening, Commissioners. I'm Jamie Anderson, Election Services Division Manager.
Am I in trouble?
Well, I'm just curious about your experience with renewing, because typically the digital checkouts, you can't renew them. You can just check them out again.
Oh, okay, well.
And that's why we don't see renewal figures separately from initial checkout figures for digital, the way that you do for physical.
I'll just say that as an end user, whether I'm renewing or taking it out again,
It's all the same to you.
it's the same to me, yeah.
Yeah. Does that answer the last question?
So you're basically saying that I actually can't renew it, and if I'm not through with it when my time is up and I take it out again, that's
counting as another checkout.
got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so we're not able to actually distinguish between, people who check out something a second time.
Erica, I have a question just for more information about the Equitable Access California.
Okay, under what section?
Who they are and what they're trying to do. What page? It's on page 19, under Information Technology. So
this is a community group that is trying to expand broadband access in West County. We met with an individual from this is a community-based organization, and a representative from Linda Hopkins' office. And we just, so it was me, my IT manager, and Elise Weiland, and the man from Equitable Access. And we were just talking about some of the things that we're trying to do to expand broadband access.
what kind of ideas do they?
Well, one idea that we're currently exploring is, so for example, the Guerneville city has multiple points in the city where people can get access, and they're all, I don't know the technical term, but they're all networked so that, if you're in Guerneville proper, you can get really good internet access, but that's not the case in some of the other areas. One of the things we're actually looking into is Starlink, and seeing how we can, add that to our bibliobus. Because one of the issues that we found when we go, Barbara and I were in Bodega Bay a few weeks ago, and they said that, it's great that we have Cinema 5, but that only works when you have cellular service. And if you don't have cellular service, then your Wi-Fi is not accessible. So looking at Starlink would be one of our options.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you very much. All right, the next report is the staff report about the mission, vision, values review process. We started to talk about that last week?
Right, and
Or last month?
have an update about that as well.
Please.
So one of the things that we realized is, we hired this consultant, we need to change consulting to help with our racial equity plans, and this is one of the things that is in their contract. So we are actually going to be working with them, and they are going to help us with our process. So by recently I mean within the last couple of days. So we're kind of pressing pause a little bit to see how we can work with that organization to help guide this process.
Questions? Commissioner Engelberg.
Just something I think that might help, because I think in the last commission meeting, there was confusion about what we were talking about.
Are you on? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. I think something that would help would be if we have a statement that defines short definitions of some of what these terms are. What a vision statement is, what a mission statement is, and how that fits in with the strategic plan. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I think some working definitions so people know when you're using the word vision statement, they know kind of what it is that you're talking about and how that's different from the reimagining plan or strategic plan.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? Okay.
I can say that Commissioner Lagos joined the team, and reports are that you were very, very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lagos. All right, then we will move into budget and finance reports.
Good evening. We have a very brief report, but it is in standard format for the month of August. In September, the Finance Committee did not meet. There was just a very short, there were really no pressing items to be heard or discussed in September. So the meeting was not held. However, this report was shared with Finance Committee members for their information, and now here before the commission. And August is the second month of the fiscal year, which represents about 17% of the fiscal year has elapsed. And so we've got a benchmark to then look at your summary sheet and see where we are on those expenditures and percentage-wise. You can compare where we are, the 17% lapse in the fiscal year and our expenditures. And having said that, I first start with revenue, and under revenue, we're at 0.6% total of our target, which represents accurately our revenue cycle. Our revenue cycle is that our property taxes coincide with the property tax bills that are due in December and in April. So we'll see a big bump in our revenues in December, and then in August. Some things will trickle in, but it's very small, and that's what we see here. Under property tax, we've only have approximately $39,000 recorded. Under sales tax, there's a 2-month lag from the time that the taxes are collected by the state and then distributed and received by the library. So there's a whole process of collection when they're due, and then process of review by the State Department of Tax and Fee Administration, and then distributed to the library. So through August, we will not, the first month that we will see sales tax posted is in September. So July and August are pretty much zero. And so we don't have a sales tax to report at this time through August. The other revenue are receipts that are a combination of interest earned, grants, donations, fees, small fees such as for damaged books. And so at this time, we've collected $227,000 approximately. Primarily, the big bulk of that is from the Lunch at the Library grant funding that we received after July 1st. Under expenditures, salaries and benefits are at 15.8%. And what we've been doing this is the second year that we've paid upfront in a one lump sum our unfunded accrued liability, which has been discussed at length at the Finance Committee. And by paying upfront at the beginning of the fiscal year, there is a savings. And it's due. It's a mandatory fee But through CalPERS, we can get a savings if we pay upfront. And without the UAL payment, salaries and benefits are about 12%. So to normalize on where we are compared to where we are with the lapse of the fiscal year, we're within our budget. And a lot of this is really, savings are attributed to vacant positions and a normal attrition. And as you know, we've recently hired our deputy director, Jared Daps. Under services and supplies, we're at $2.2 million, which is 16% of the total expenditures. And there's a note here of what, this was for the benefit of the finance committee, so that we're all tracking our budget. So there was a correction in the budget. There was just some numbers that were not in the right category, but services and supplies remains the same at $13.7 million. Under books, media, and subscriptions, they're at almost $900,000 or 22% of their budget. But what happens is that there are books on order, at the end of the fiscal year before June 30th, that will not be received until the beginning of the new fiscal year, which is on July 1. And so when we receive those books, we pay for them after July 1. And two things that are of note with that is the staff brings to the commission for approval a rebudget for funds that cover items that were on order last fiscal year, and then carry over the funds in order to pay for those items when they arrive in the new fiscal year starting July 1. So in October, the Finance Committee will see a report and a request for rebudgeting, as well as a report on capital expenditures, a status report on capital projects, where we are on spending, and per the new capital budgeting procedure, make additional requests through required expenditures to cover expenditures through December 31st. So those are items that then will come to the commission in November, depending on the discussion and the recommendation by the Finance Committee. Any questions?
McKenzie.
Thank you. Nice and clear report. Just a comment that we're all looking forward to seeing what our fund balances are, no doubt. And so the other one is under our new procedure about the friends groups and the gifts and making sure that all gets, it's more clearly accounted for than, the problems that we had in the past. Is it a quarter up? Are we about getting ready to meet with the friends groups?
So, yes, with the friends groups, we do have a report through September 30th, and I believe it's September 30th. Is it August? Through August. And what was determined is that the branch managers will be responsible for communicating those reconciliations to each of their corresponding friends group. If there are any follow-up questions, I'm available to meet on a case-by-case basis, but I'm happy to do that as well. But the branch manager is the one that meets on a day-to-day basis and knows the requests and the donations made.
Other questions? Thanks very much. And no members of the public have joined us, right?
No members of the public have joined us.
Thanks. All right, into commission and liaison reports then. The only thing I have to add to my chair report is that I'm embarrassed to say that I forgot that it was LGBTQ plus A History Month. And I didn't write that down in my, I didn't mention that in my chair's report. I know it's important to the community. It would be nice to have a calendar of some of the months that we celebrate, just so that we know in advance what we should be looking for and what we should be telling our community. Does anybody have anything to add to their own commissioner reports? Commissioner McKenzie.
Not to add to mine, but question on yours. I see that the state librarian, Greg Lucas, visited Sebastopol Ranch. I wonder if you could tell us the purpose of the visit, and would have been nice maybe if all the commissioners could have been invited to that, or was it too specific to?
It was a very sudden thing, and I will hand that over to Erica.
Yeah, it was very last minute. We basically found out that the afternoon before he was coming to visit. And I understand that this is very typical, that he likes to just pop over to libraries. We were fortunate to, scramble together a group of employees, and Commissioner Engbarth was there, as was Councilmember Zolman and Vice Mayor Diana Rich. We had a nice little goodie bag. We talked a lot about the branch and the community. It was a really well, put together. And he had a great time. And we were going to go to lunch, but he left Sacramento late, so we weren't able to do that, but another time.
Thank you.
And he does tend to visit individual libraries here. Any other questions? All right. Down to committee and liaison reports. Commissioner Elkin, do you have anything to add to your Finance Committee report?
No, I don't. The information that Myrna provided and that the commission saw in September are both more current than the report from August. Thank you.
Commissioner Hauser?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Goldberg?
Only that the Zoom cut out in the middle of, almost at the end of the Historical Records Commission meeting, and so I missed the very last part, and I got the minutes of that very last part, and I'll include them next month.
No changes to the Measure Y liaison report either. We have no members of the public, so there's no comments. So we will move down into library advisory boards, Foundation and Friends of the Library. Do we have anybody still from the Friends, the Foundation? Okay, and we will move on. Our consent calendar. Does anyone have any objections? May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Excellent. Commissioner Cahill. Commissioner Elkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth.
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser.
Yes.
Commissioner Evanridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan. Oops. He did step out. I will make it at least 10 to 1. I mean, 10, nothing. Action items by motion, the social media policy.
Good evening, Chair Doyle, Commissioners. Ray Hawley, Communications Manager. You have before you a proposed social media policy. This is modeled on policies and best practices from other libraries around the nation, and it's been vetted by our legal counsel. I think the introduction and policy are fairly clear. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm assuming this is a first-time policy for social media for the library?
Yes, it is. Social media is an emerging.
That's fine, I understand.
Commissioner Engbarth.
Something new.
Yes, it's a new policy for us, yes, it is.
Commissioner Engbarth.
Yes, I have a few questions, but I'll take the circle around it first. The one I have right now is that has the union had the opportunity to review this policy?
Not to my knowledge.
Because there's, as counsel, if he's available, there's emerging case law that's talking from PERBs, talking about the fact that this is also social media policies could be a meet and confer item. And I think that it could be a meet and confer item, which would need to be reviewed by the union before we implement it, because it would have a potential impact on the conditions of the employees' work, the media policy, they could face discipline for violation of it. And having them sign off on it before we sign off on it might be a good
I think I
step.
might be able to respond to that. The service bulletin that we're planning to send out to staff centers the decision to hide or delete comments on the communications manager. We're not asking staff to take that on, and we're certainly not intending to infringe on staff's First Amendment rights.
But it still would be an item that they would need to review and sign off on. It would still be an item that the union will at least need to sign off on it, and whether they consider it a meet and confer item, I don't know, but they would know, they would bring it up, just present it to them to review.
Perhaps we will refer that to legal counsel.
So Olivia should be on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, just as a preliminary matter, I think Ray said it, that this is as applied to members of the public. So I think for the purposes of consideration this evening, could still go forward, but of course you can pause and run it by the union if you'd like. My point is that this policy as drafted is only towards members of the public use rather than staff use.
The policy itself talks about any and all, and uses that language. It doesn't really break it down in terms of saying community or staff and limiting that. It just says any media use and all media use. So for example, hypothetically, a staff member might use social media to object to a work environment situation. And that would be where they would be acting. If they were doing it outside of work, they'd be acting as an employee. That's not as an employee, but as a person. But then they could face discipline for having said something on social media post about what they're experiencing at work. So that's the area I'm concerned about, is that at least to have them check it, to say, yes, we don't care about it, would be, but I think to approve it before we get that check might be not a wise thing to do.
Yeah, we can certainly work with the union to make sure they sign off. My point was just to, most of this policy is directed at users, and users is defined as member of the public. So I see your point.
Commissioner Lagos.
I think, Fred, if maybe I can clarify, this isn't directed at what someone is posting on their own social media channels. So me, as Sarah Lagos, on my Facebook page, I can say whatever I want. It's when I post it on the library's page.
Right, I
So
understand.
that's where the library then has oversight over their social media accounts to be able to say, we will allow this kind of language.
Right.
But an employee can say whatever they'd like to say about the library on their own social media.
But people tend to use equipment at work to make communications like that. And, they're not making the distinction between whether if I'm using a laptop in my office, if that's a library laptop, and I'm going, or it's my own personal laptop, or if it's my own website versus going on to a library website. And it's just a risk. I think it'd be safer to have the union just say, we're not concerned about it, and get on with it, rather than to implement a policy that could end up them raising an issue that we haven't conferred with them on it.
It's also been on the agenda.
So I think that this is something that I can talk to our legal counsel about, but it's not a practice for us to send our policies to the union before they're approved. So I would rather, if this is a real concern for the rest of the commission, continue to discuss this with our legal counsel and see if there are any changes that can be made legally that might, address your concerns. But taking it to the union is just not something that we make a practice of doing when we bring our policies for approval.
Mr. McKenzie, your hand was up.
This is not an impact on working conditions, which we would, of course, we would talk to the union about. And frankly, we could go on at length about examples. The example Commissioner Engelbarth used would not trigger action. For someone to say, I don't like so-and-so, or I had to work too hard today, that's not going to trigger any sort of action. It's the most extreme speech, hate speech, incitement of violence, and then there's those other odd things that happen where people try to hijack or piggyback onto the library account to sell their services or products. This just allows us to keep the conversation about the library, even if it's occasionally an unpleasant conversation.
Commissioner McKenzie? Yes, thank you. I have a little tiny but important punctuation comment and then a comment about the appeal process. On item or section C on page 109, it says, as a general rule, the library will not remove, hide, or delete comments solely because such comments are critical of the library or its officials. However, and that needs to have a semicolon after officials or a period, and then the however is capitalized. That's a run-on.
Perhaps if the commission approves the policy tonight, you could do so with that amendment.
And also, a deeper question, I guess. On the back, we talk about right of a repeal, which has the right of a repeal the user's comment. But under blocking a user, is that appealable if you get blocked as a user? That doesn't seem to have an appeal process attached to
We
it.
don't anticipate blocking users unless they're just completely out there. The easiest thing to do simply is to hide a comment. And we took the appeal language directly out of the behavior policy. I know it has a new name now, the safe library use policy. We wanted to conform to that.
And also, the blocking would be done by the platform, not by us. So it would be blocked by the platform. So if it's, Facebook, it would be Facebook that would be blocking them, not the library.
Okay.
I was wondering, other libraries that already have social media as part of their program, do you know about problems around hate speech and racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic sort of rants that start and go on library social media? And if they've had these issues, who decides and when something's extreme enough? And how does that all get decided?
So libraries are experiencing that. We've experienced it. I've hidden comments. And who decides currently? It's me, based on the guidelines of this policy. I'll tell you, we had a critical comment today, and it did not rise. I mean, I didn't like it. It made me uncomfortable, but it didn't rise to the level of racist, homophobic, incitement of violence. I mean, I'll give you the example that maybe will help. During a heated debate on Facebook, on one of our Facebook pages a few months ago, one person went to another person's Facebook page, captured a photo of that person and their children, and then posted it with some exciting language. And that comment was not deleted, that comment was just hidden. And it's the really extreme stuff. As a former journalist, I'm not interested in editing, curating our Facebook feeds. We've created a quasi-public forum. I want people to use it. It's only the really extreme stuff that we need to be able to take this step. And I think that, frankly, I think the policy protects the users as much as it does us.
Any comments other than Commissioner Engelbarth, because you've, okay, Commissioner Cahill.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with going ahead with this evening.
I'm sorry, could you put your speaker on?
All right. I'm comfortable with going ahead with this evening, partly because we know who's administering the policy right now or would be. And I think it would be helpful to support his efforts, just in case something arises. A policy can always be amended later. I would prefer to have this in effect now.
Is that a motion to approve this amendment?
Well, you can treat it as such, sure, what the heck.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, then we have amended it with the semicolon. Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin.
Yes.
Commissioner Engelbarth.
No.
Commissioner Colbert.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser.
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge. Oh, golly, I'm sorry. Commissioner Legos.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yeah.
Commissioner McMillan. And I'll make it 10. I think I've got to ask for thank you very much. Commissioner McMillan, you were out when we approved the consent calendar. Would you like to approve the consent calendar so we can make it unanimous? Thank you. If you would note that. That would be great. Okay. We will get Commissioner Heavenridge when he comes back. Next, Public Education and Outreach Plan Agreement.
Okay, so thank you all. I want to let you all know that I created an RFP for the Public Education and Outreach Plan. That comprised of a few of our commissioners, including Commissioner Cahill, Commissioner Green, and Chair Doyle. And we unanimously selected Dan Mullen as our consultant. Dan has a long history working with Sonoma County Library. He's also very well versed in local politics. And we believe that he, will guide us into the next phase of our planning for Speakers Bureau and other ancillary products for our public education plan. I just want to point out that his proposal includes elements that will be contracted out by him. So that the total dollar amount that you see includes 2 mailers and another community survey. So, his fee is detailed in the scope of work. I think that's Exhibit A, but it does include those 2 other pieces. And he will, work with us on that, but he will be contracting those services out. If there's any questions, I'm going to defer to Dan.
Welcome, Mr. Mullins. Good to see you. Do we have any
Thank you. Good evening.
Do we have any questions for Dan?
I just wanted to suggest that since we're getting into the cycle of preparing for the ballot measure, that it might be helpful to get a training from council who coincidentally they've helped draft a brochure from the Institute for Intergovernmental Activities on public agencies and ballot measures. And it might help us avoid running into any issues as far as what's appropriate and not appropriate in connection with putting a ballot, or working towards putting a ballot on the, before the voters.
Do you want to say something about that, Erica?
Sure. So we're actually planning at the commission training on October 14th. Dan will be preparing a timeline. We did talk about doing a training at that point in time, but because it's a little farther away, we will probably have Dan work with our legal counsel, and there definitely will be a very thorough training on what roles and responsibilities are around this particular issue. Dan, do you have anything you want to add?
Totally agree. I think it's critically important to give the commissioners the opportunity to engage with their community while still following and staying within the guidelines.
And this is also, we're very focused on education. That's what this piece of it is. Because all kinds of things could happen between now and an election cycle. So I think we all have to be very clear that this is education, this is not campaigning.
Correct. And the guidelines would be there to help reinforce that message.
Super. Do you want to have any other additional comments? Commissioner McKenzie.
Apologize if I had to step out if I missed this discussion, but under the scope of work, I am not seeing a role for commissioners other than, I mean, you're talking about the education, make sure we don't, cross lines that we shouldn't, but I'm not seeing the scope of, within this, kind of a part to play, and we're, going to be the ones putting it on.
That would be later, I would think. And so I'm not sure that it's appropriate for it to be in your proposal. Mr. Millen, what would you say?
We didn't really drill down into the scope of work at this time, but going back to the proposal, and maybe some of the commissioners who reviewed the proposal can speak to this as well, there is a role for commissioners, and I think what Commissioner McKenzie is referencing is highly valuable. I certainly want to have commissioners engaged in this public education process. Further, I think what I can do is elaborate on what commissioners' roles could be as part of the timeline, but I'd want to double check with legal counsel on that before I make a promise.
Perhaps you could talk to us at the orientation about that?
Yeah.
We certainly plan to have you be part of our speakers bureau.
That's good. Yes. Any other questions? Mr. Elkin.
I thought the proposal looked great. The price seemed appropriate. Obviously, I've heard very good things about Dan. You've alluded to a schedule. I'm assuming, and I don't feel a need to see it here in the agreement, but I'm assuming that there will be a more detailed schedule or work plan that would include any intermediate deliverables or updates to the commission along the way. Is that a reasonable expectation?
Yes, there's if we connect the dots, if you look at the scope of work, there's engage and educate the community. Part of that is about the tracking survey, for example. It's about the educational mailers that are likely to go out to residents. And then phase 3, for example, is a report to commissioners for you to make a decision, because this is not cooked. We don't know at this point in time if the ballot measure is going to go all the way through. It's dependent on other things.
Any other questions? Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes, thank you. One more question, Dan. The bulk of this, the cost is on the tracking survey and on the mailers. Does the tracking survey comes first and find out what people don't or do understand about our library system, and then the mailer is going to be mailers are going to educate people on the things that we found out through the tracking survey that they don't understand? Or could you give us a gist of what the information in the mailers would be?
Yeah, I think you do get the gist. I would add that the tracking survey also will tell us where the economy is next year. We did a survey which has been presented in phases here already, so we know that we're in pretty good shape. But at the same time, we don't know what other tax measures are going to pass on the March ballot, for example. Will passage of more sales taxes on the March ballot impact appetite for renewal? We just don't know yet. In that, as part of that process, since we're paying for a survey anyway, we're probably going to test, or I expect to test, further messages with feedback from the commission, as has been supplied, and then see what level of education we need to offer the community.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move it.
Second. Thank you. All right. Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin.
Yes.
Commissioner Engelbart.
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser.
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan.
Yes.
I'll make it unanimous. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again a lot.
Yeah, likewise. I look forward to it. Thank you, everybody.
And let us go back to the social media policy. Commissioner Heavenridge, you had stepped out of the room. Would you like to vote aye or nay on that?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll make that unanimous. Thank you. Here we are at 11, and it is 7:33. Agenda items for future commission meetings. Commissioner Green.
I would really like a tour of headquarters, preferably before a commission meeting. I'd love a tour of headquarters. I'd like to visualize where the sausage is made. And if it could be scheduled before a commission meeting, that would be helpful for those of us who are traveling to get here.
How many have not seen the headquarters? All right. Commissioner Engelbart.
Yes, I have two. One of them is that the JPA, we're getting close to the time limit within the JPA that requires the commission to review the effectiveness of the JPA and issue a report. So I'm wondering if we could put that on a future item to start talking about what we're going to do to make that assessment, how we're going to go about it. We might need to hire to help us do that. The second item is a follow-up on the minutes from the last meeting, which we just approved, which is the part about the Roseland lease. I think the issue that the commission wanted to hear about was the idea of a JPA partner charging the library for its space. And that's more than just what was addressed in Erica's report from Santa Rosa. I think it's a wider issue, and I'd like to have some time for us to talk about that as a group.
Do you want to do the update now, or do you?
Well, I guess
put that on?
I'm unclear about what outcome what is the outcome that you're hoping to achieve?
To talk about that as an issue, I think that it came up this time around a specific lease, around that lease issue that with Roseland.
Talk about what is
But
the
I
issue
think long-term, policy-wise, if it comes up again, to talk about it while it's still fresh in our minds about, well, where do we stand on that? What would the library do if we're going into negotiations, giving you advice on that? What kind of advice do we want to give you?
Sure, I think that could be part of the JPA review. The JPA actually does not say that the library does not pay rent.
No.
So that is something that if we do, want to renegotiate the JPA at a further date, that is something we could consider changing.
And you're talking about the leases? Commissioner Engelbart, you were talking about the leases specifically.
I was talking about separately. It says, we made it in the minutes, it says we're going to get a report back and we're going to talk about that we're going to make.
Could you speak into your microphone, because I can't hear.
The minutes talk about from the last meeting that we're going to make a report, that a report would come back on that issue about the Roseland lease, specifically around the concerns that the commission raised about being charged rent for the space. And Erica's letter was helpful, but it didn't come to it was sent to us individually. It wasn't sent to the commission for discussion. And I think that would be something worth the time to talk about that specific issue, release a little bit, but also to talk about the concept.
I can understand what you're saying about talking going forward, but forgive me, I don't think there's anything to discuss here. We have an existing legal lease that we've already approved. the city of Santa Rosa is giving us a little break on our current lease. That's a benefit to us. I don't think there's anything to discuss.
Madam, point of order, I think the discussion,
Do you have your mic on?
Yes, point of order, discussing substantive matters with regard to the JPA and the leases is out of order because it's not on our agenda.
We're talking about future agenda.
I know, but even so, we're drifting into a discussion of the merits.
You're right. Thank you, Commissioner Elton. Commissioner Greenberg, you had your hand up?
No, I withdraw.
Commissioner McKenzie?
I just want to second this important idea of talking about the JPA. I don't know how we're going to do it other than just put it on a meeting agenda, but I'm seconding this idea, and I think this question of equitable treatment of all the JPA partners is part of that discussion, and
I think we'll put a task force together, and we also have to be mindful that if there is a ballot measure, we also don't want to, we want to be careful about our partner relationships. So I think a task force may suit to talk about the JPA. Yes?
And if this point is not brought up at our training, I'd like to bring up the idea of commission subcommittees, standing committees.
What was that? I'm sorry.
She wants to talk about standing committees, commission standing committees.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Agenda items for future commission meetings, going once, going twice?
I do have an announcement. Suzanne wanted me to remind you all that Staff Day is October 26th at Sally Tomatoes, and of course, you are all welcome to attend. It'll be our first in-person Staff Day since before the pandemic. Okay, so please RSVP because we need a head count.
Send us a note. Thank you. Then adjournment by acclamation. Do we have a motion?
I think we can claim the agenda.
By acclamation. Thanks very much, everybody, and it's 7:39. That's a record, I think.
Good sharing.